Start with Rodri. What do you think? Do you expect Real Madrid to get their man?
Well, not at that price that I've just heard mentioned. I think 40, 50 million. I mean, if you're Manchester City, what's the point in selling him? You might as well just keep him for the extra year. He's as good as anybody in that position in the Premier League. We're probably the best, isn't he? Right now, you've seen what he was like in the World Cup. Seemed like he was back to his best. I thought the second half of the season, him and Bernardo Silva were fantastic and almost took Manchester City to the title. So if I was the manager of Manchester City, I'd be keeping Rodri at that price. It'd have to be something really special to want me to lose, arguably the best midfield player in world football.
Got a lot of midfielders there, Jamie, haven't they? They've recruited, obviously, Elliot Anderson over the summer, but how big a loss would he be? Could you envisage them, say, winning the Premier League without him if they sold him this summer?
I think it'd be really tough, even though they've got a lot of midfielders. He's the best, even though they've brought Elliot Anderson. And he'd want to, I'm sure, learn off Rodri. And for me, I'd see those two as a pair. I see Elliot Anderson as almost a replacement for Bernardo Silva, who's gone to Real Madrid. So I think that'd be a big hole. It'd be really difficult to fill. I mean, I think a couple of years ago when Liverpool won the title under Arne Slot, I think Rodri got an injury in that season very early on as well, which would have, obviously helped Liverpool and been to the detriment of Manchester City as well. So, if I was Manchester City, I'd be keeping him and letting him go on a free. I think they paid 60 million for him, getting 40 million back now. What can they do with that type of money? Not a lot, really. So I'd rather keep him.
Jamie, appreciate you have to work with Roy Keane and probably come across Patrick Vieira from time to time. But where does he rank in terms of all-time Premier League central midfielders, Rodri?
Well, he's right near the top. I did this list with Roy on Monday Night Football last season, but we sort of included all types of different midfield players with the sort of Kevin De Bruyne, Frank Lampard in there, Steven Gerrard, more attacking midfield players. But I think Rodri comes into the camp of a Roy Keane or a Patrick Vieira. And for me, I've always said Roy Keane was the top of that list of that type of sort of real central midfield player, holding midfield player. And I think Rodri and him, it's a toss of a coin, really. So that's how highly I rate him. I think there's probably only Roy, if anybody, has been better than Rodri in that sort of holding midfield position, sort of dictating play in the Premier League.
Yeah, quite a player, be quite a loss, won't he? The other major breaking news today, Jamie, Eddie Howe has left Newcastle. What did you make of that? How surprised were you?
Surprised because I think it's always a surprise when a manager leaves in pre-season or there's only a few weeks to go before the start of the season. I wouldn't have been surprised if this decision would have happened at the end of last season. It's an interesting one with Newcastle because Eddie Howe's done a brilliant job and that team's gone as far as it can go. It can't achieve any more, that team. It won a trophy. It got into the Champions League twice. I think it got into the knockout stages at least once, maybe twice. And there wasn't any more for that team to do. So I could totally understand the players there and also the club wanting to sort of cash in and make sure they got proper fees for these players. Because what happens is when you've got a club who can't go any further, they were never going to win the league. They were never really going to challenge for the league. But they had players and always qualify for the Champions League. But they had players who I think most people would look at and think, they could play for a team who play in the Champions League every season. They've got players who could compete for the Champions League and the Premier League every season. And when the club can't keep moving with those players want to move on. That's just the nature of the beast. We've seen that with Isak last season, Tonali the same, Anthony Gordon, and Guimaraes looks like he wants to go. But I didn't have a problem so much with those players going. I could understand it. And I thought Newcastle were right to get the maximum fees that they could get. And I just thought, is Eddie Howe going to sort of build another team again like he built that team 4 or 5 years ago? But it just looks like he hasn't really got the energy for it anymore. And it takes a lot out of your manager in Newcastle. I mean, Newcastle aren't Man United or Liverpool, but they're a huge football club. And they're one club in one city. So you can imagine the demands, the intensity of that every day. And Eddie Howe is a really intense manager. And I think last season took a lot out of him. And obviously, we know recruitment didn't go well for them last season. They had a poor season by their standards, and it was time to refresh, let these players move on, get maximum money for them, and build a new team. But to build a new team is probably going to take 2 or 3 years again. So I think Eddie Howe's probably just looked at the pre-season. Obviously, the Bruno situation looks like it's going to kick off shortly as well, and maybe he just ran out of the energy and that intensity that makes him the manager that he is. But he will go down as an absolute icon, legend at that football club, what he did. I'm a huge admirer of Eddie Howe, and he's done a fantastic job, and he's probably made a decision that's probably right for him and also the football club.
You're a huge admirer, and he'll be a legend up there, as you say. What level is he at, Jamie, do you feel, if jobs come available at the big clubs, if it doesn't go well this season at the very top of the Premier League, would he be in the conversation? What's next for him?
Probably not the absolute top, I would say right now. Maybe a similar club to sort of Newcastle, a sort of someone who feels like they're a sleeping giant, and maybe 6-12 months' time who feels like, you know, they can get themselves back up there in the European positions. I think if Eddie Howe would have left Newcastle maybe a couple of years ago, you are looking at a situation where you're looking at maybe Liverpool, the way Iraola's gone to Bournemouth, from Bournemouth to Liverpool. And sometimes, well, not sometimes, all of the time, it's about timing. It's about, you know, making that move at the right time, what certain jobs are available. You know, Bournemouth last season, I think, finished 6th. There's no better time for Iraola to move, and it just happens that the Liverpool job's available. So, again, that comes down to timing. So I think right now, on the back of maybe an okay, well, a poor season, let's be honest, by Newcastle standards and Eddie Howe, he's probably not going to get that move right away. But for me, I'd want Eddie Howe as the next England manager, whether he goes a club before that or wherever. I just think Eddie Howe's destined to manage the England team, and I'd love to see that happen.
Would that affect his plans now, Jamie, do you think? Would he sit on his hands for a little bit, or do you think he'd have to crack on and take a job and then just wait and see with England?
Well, as I go back to it, it's all about timing and being in the right place at the right time. I don't think Eddie Howe can wait for the England job. I think Thomas Tuchel's going to have that job for the next 2 years. The Euros is at home. I think England have got a great chance of doing really well, or, you know, winning that competition. Excuse me. And yeah, I don't think Eddie Howe will wait 2 years. But I mean, it could be a situation where he's out of the game for 6 months, maybe it's 12 months. He refreshes. I'm sure Eddie Howe's the type of manager, as he's done in the past, where he'll go around Europe, around the world, picking up new ideas as well, making himself an even better manager. And he'll come back, as I said, refreshed and a better manager for his next job.
Now, I think, Jamie, Matthias Jaissle of Al Ahly is the favourite to replace Eddie Howe at Newcastle. Unknown quantity from our perspective, I suppose. Does that surprise you?
Well, not really. He's coming from a Saudi club. We know the links with Newcastle there as well. He's a manager who's been in the Red Bull model. And I think any coach who's involved in that model, we always associate with a certain style of football. It's energetic, it's high press, it's direct football, it's exciting football that supporters like. And he's had a successful time as a manager. When you look at where he's been, I think he coached at a certain stage at Brøndby in Denmark. He was successful with Salzburg in the Champions League, got to the knockout stage. I don't think an Austrian team had ever done that before. So I don't think we should, turn our noses up at this guy because he's coming from the Saudi League. He's obviously gone to the Saudi League to make a few quid, as players and managers do. And, you know, what can you say? That's part of the game. Now, that's, reared its head a few years ago. But even when he's been there, he's had success as well. So he looks like a very competent manager, no doubt. And I think he's the type of manager I think a lot of Premier League clubs would have had their eyes on if a vacancy came up. Because I think in terms of, I go back to the Red Bull model, not just players, but managers and coaches involved there, you know exactly what you're getting. And I think more often than not is what supporters want. So, yeah, and I don't think that's too dissimilar to what Eddie Howe was like at Newcastle in terms of how he liked to play.
Fascinating to see how he gets on. Newcastle's owners, Jamie, initially very vocal about their desire to take the club to the very top, win the biggest trophies. How far away are they? Do you think they're finding it tougher than maybe they expected?
They're a million miles away, and they always were, because the rules don't help them. It's not a Manchester City. Manchester City and Chelsea came along when those rules weren't about. And it's unfortunate for Newcastle. I spoke about timing with managers, timing with a football club with, PSR rules now. And it's just completely different. So when Saudi took over Newcastle 4 or 5 years ago, I said then I didn't see Newcastle winning the Premier League in the next 10 years. I don't know how you can do it. I think, and that's why I go back to what Eddie Howe did and the players. I don't think you can do any more. I mean, listen, they could win another cup competition. They could... if they dropped into the Europa League, they could win the Europa League. Of course they could. But in terms of winning a Premier League or winning the Champions League, absolutely no chance, because what was different for Chelsea and Manchester City was when they were building up, they could pay transfer fees and wages that blew a Man United or a Liverpool or an Arsenal out the water. Because of the rules now, Newcastle can't. So even if they offer the same money as those, the biggest clubs in this country, no player's going to choose Newcastle over Man United or a City or an Arsenal or a Liverpool. They're not. So the only way you make that jump is what City and Chelsea did all those years ago, and by doubling transfer fees or doubling wages, and Newcastle can't do that.
No, let's talk about Liverpool, a club who can do that, apparently set to open talks with PSG over a potential deal for Bradley Barcola. A record deal as well, potentially, Jamie, British record. Something tells me, though, you don't think he's exactly what they need.
Oh, he's a great player. There's no doubt about that. And, I'd love to get Barcola at Liverpool, but in terms of, it looks like Liverpool have sort of got one target at the moment, and that's the one everybody's talking about. And he's a left winger for me. And for me, Liverpool's big thing that stands out like a sore thumb right now is replacing Mo Salah, a right winger. And I don't think Liverpool have got anybody really in the squad who looks fully comfortable playing right wing. Whereas right now, I think they probably have, I'd say, at least 4 players in the squad before Barcola joins, if he joins, who could play on the left-hand side comfortably. Now, I'm not saying any of those players are better than Barcola, but in terms of balance of a squad, it's not the position Liverpool need right now. They need a right winger, but if you're saying to me, do I want Barcola to come, and Liverpool are going to sign a right winger as well, I'll be absolutely delighted, because players would have to move on, of course they would, but right now, and I felt this summer would be about replacing Mo Salah. Barcola doesn't replace Mo Salah.
I suppose he might block as well Rio and Gomorrah a little bit. What do you expect from him this season, Jamie?
He might what? Sorry, drop him.
Well, no, he might get in the way of Rio and Gomorrah. Would he potentially down the left-hand side if Barcola joined? What do you expect from Rio this season?
That is a thought, but Rio's a young lad. I think he's really good. I think he's going to kick on from where he did last season. And that is another point, that you're buying a really young player for a lot of money in Barcola, who's better than Rio and Gomorrah right now. But you think, eventually in the next year or two, Rio would want to be playing week in, week out for Liverpool. And that's up to him to prove it. So when you pay that type of money for a young player in his position, it does leave you scratching your head a little bit. But as I said, he's still got a lot to prove. But there's talk that Rio and Gomorrah could play on the right now and get some minutes there. And as a young player, that's fine. Play both sides. But I think his position is the left right now. And the reason I'm a little bit confused with that, because last season, when Liverpool sold Luis Diaz, the noise was coming from the club where we're not buying a left winger because we've got Gakpo, and we also don't want to block the path of Rio and Gomorrah. And you think, well, okay, I understand that to a certain extent. But Rio's now 12 months on. He's proven that he looks a tasty player. And you think Liverpool might have a player there for the future. So 12 months on, Liverpool are going to break the bank for someone in that position, when 12 months earlier, when Rio had proved nothing, they said he didn't want to block his path. So there is a few things with Liverpool transfer-wise at the moment where I'm still scratching my head a little bit. But listen, if they go out and get a player for the right wing and they bring Barcola in, they sell a couple of the wide players that they have on the books right now, I think that'd be fantastic.
Early days, Jamie. Really appreciate your time. But quick final thought. What are your impressions of Andoni Iraola so far, and how optimistic are you?
Well, I think he speaks really well. He comes across really, really well. He's a real hard worker. You think of where his background was as a player as well at Athletic Club, and I think he played virtually his full career there. Then went to the MLS. I think there's similarities between both clubs in lots of ways as well. So I think he's a guy who I think everybody warms to. I think everybody in the Premier League loves him, loves the way his teams play. And it's just that jump from Bournemouth to Liverpool, isn't it? It's not a jump that a lot of managers can make from the sort of, not so much bottom half of the Premier League, as they finished 6th last season, Bournemouth, but a smaller club to a giant where you're expected to win week in, week out. And it won't be easy, because there's a lot of change at Liverpool now. One of the greatest players has left in Mo Salah. Virgil van Dijk's again another year older, so is the goalkeeper, Alisson, and they are 3 legendary figures for the club in these sort of last 10 years or so. So it's not going to be easy, and there will be a little bit of time to get used to it and transition and bring new players in. So, I'm I'm not expecting Liverpool to win the league, but obviously Liverpool are Liverpool, and we want them to be competitive in all competitions.